The heart wants what it wants. It's a complicated organ. Now that's a quote from Gypsy in this last episode of her show, and it's the definite theme for this entire series, and we're going to talk about it in today's video. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. Y'all, we got the rocker today, okay? If you're new here, there's usually a little sofa behind me, but I'm in the mountains, so we got the rocker and the little mountain stuff behind me, okay? But anyways, my name is Paul. If you're new here, and if you're not new here, well, let me just reintroduce myself. Now, today, what we're doing is we are finally at episode 8 of Gypsy Rose's show, Life After Lockup. So what we're gonna do is, if you've been following me for my review of it and whatnot, I've got my phone here, I watched it, I took notes on it, and I'm just gonna go down and use those as talking points. And then I'll do some summary at the very end of it, but if you follow me, you know I can't keep my damn mouth shut. So I'll talk about it as we go. Now just remember, I'm not a cop, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a therapist, not none of that stuff. This is literally sofa speculation and sofa opinions, okay? So they're just my opinions based on public information that we can all watch and form our own opinions on. So just keep that in mind. Now let's go ahead. Well, first of all, if you're brand new to this, whatever, this is like series 8, or I'm sorry, episode 8. So go watch the other ones first if you want to, but if you just want to hear me ramble, well, then hang around. So keep in mind, Gypsy Rose Blanchard was sent to prison for, well, she 10 years, but she did 8, she got out early, for her involvement in the role of taking the life of her mother. So she's been paroled. She became a very, almost like, not overnight celebrity, because her celebrity kind of rose from or infamy, I should say, from her crime, from documentaries, docuseries, all this type of stuff, and then she definitely catapulted when she got out of prison. She married a guy named Ryan. As you know, if you've watched this or followed the case or heard TikToks, whatever, she's, you know, getting divorced or soon to be or whatever, and she's with a guy named Ken. So this is like, the series is, you know, we already kind of know this if you've been following her, is what I'm getting at. So some of it's old news, but we're seeing the context behind the scenes, and that's what was most interesting to me. So again, I'm just going to start with my notes here, and we'll just go down and start talking about it. So the first thing I wrote was that quote she did, the heart wants what it wants, it's a complicated organ. We'll get to that in a minute, because once we get into this where she's like officially with Ken and going back and forth, I'm like, yeah, we need to make our mind up here, girl, right? Okay, so in the beginning, she talks with Christy about how she tried with Ryan but doesn't love him how she should. She says that she thinks their relationship was something just from prison, and it wasn't. Okay, let's just pause right there. So a huge thing in this whole thing is we've seen the involvement of Christy, we'll say the stepmother, Gypsy considers her, you know, calls her mom and whatnot, in the splitting up of Ryan and Gypsy. And whether you agree with it or not agree with it or whatever, I mean, I have my own feelings about Ryan at this point after seeing this. And even Christy's daughter, Mia, we'll get to it, will be like, that wasn't your place, right? So it's a little bit of oddness there, right? Now, one thing that stems from this is also Gypsy's dad. Now, the dad says that he now agrees with the mom and that he thinks she made a mistake marrying Ryan. So here's the thing. The dad basically, as we'll learn, is essentially like, I'm walking on thin ice with Gypsy. I don't want to scare off. I don't want to be overbearing. The relationship's a little strained anyway. There's all this history, so on and so forth, right? But he does feel like, yeah, they weren't a match. Now, seeing the contrast of Gypsy and Ken versus Gypsy and Ryan, I see a difference too, right? She did not seem that happy with Ryan, and we'll get to, I think there is a reveal later as to why she was with him, and I think there's probably some truth to it, but let's keep going for now. So she says she texted Ryan a letter about confronting him and he cussed her out. Okay, so yes, we learn in this episode the texting back and forth. A lot of times, like in a breakup, you know, you're still having to deal with your person. I mean, they were married, right? They have business together, if you will. So she's texting him, and it sounds like some of the text messages are confusing. They are sending the wrong message. It's like, I don't want to be with you, but I'm going to also send you these text messages at inappropriate hours, or check on the dog, or do this. And I can understand from Ryan's point of view that that would be pissy, and it would also give him false hope, you know? And she's like, oh, he cussed me out and whatnot. Well, I mean, at a certain point, what do you expect? You know what I mean? Like, look at what you did. Like, you dumped him. Now, again, am I trying to take all your feelings aside on how you feel about Gypsy, her crime, her punishment, all that. Just pretend we don't know any of that, and we just saw a snapshot of her and Ryan's relationship. Red flag central, okay? Like, on both ends of theirs, okay? But especially with Ryan's behavior, we're very quickly watching this. I was like, yeah, I want to I couldn't deal with that. But also, I see why one reason why he was insecure is because Ken was always in the relationship. It was very obvious that Christy wanted her or Gypsy to be with him, and she kept contact. I mean, this was kind of her plan, in my opinion. So it's very back and forth, but just the controlling nature, the way he talked over, and I'm talking about Ryan to Gypsy, the way he talked over her, looks at her phone, what are you doing? Constantly checking, blah, blah, blah. However you arrived there is almost irrelevant. That place that they arrived at was not a fun place to be in, okay? So I can understand why that would extinguish any kind of feelings you might have. Let's keep going. Now they will talk to Ryan, and he's like, she's texting me this sweet stuff, and he's like, why don't you call me? I haven't seen you. And then she sends him a picture of her and Ken together, and she's like, Ken visited me. And he says that he told her that was evil, and I'm like, yeah, what? Like, that's what I'm talking about with the back and forth. Think about an ex you were with. Unless you were wanting to stab them, like, and really stick it to them, why would you do that? Like, why sit there and do that? One thing that I feel like I walked away from this scene is that I'm like, Gypsy kind of plays games with these men. Both Ken, we'll see here, and again in a little bit when we get towards the end, when Ken's more in the picture and Ryan's totally gone. I made some notes about her behavior towards Ken where I'm like, oh my God, she's firing the same behavior up with Ken. Do I expect her to be a completely sound person? No. I mean, hell, am I completely sound? No, okay. I mean, I get it, right? None of us are perfect, okay? So it's like, I don't want to make it sound like, well, I'm, you know, the relationship expert over here. Single as can damn be, okay? I get it, right? So she's got two of them. Right, she got men fighting over her. I'm over here single with a damn box of bonbons, giving out relationship advice. Okay, don't take it from me, okay? Absolutely not, okay? I ain't the one to be giving, okay? But like everybody, I do have my opinions, right? So there's that. So here's the thing. I agree. It's like, yeah, that's pretty mean of her to do. But again, we don't see it completely the back, what's going on behind closed doors. Because then Ryan talks about their matching husky tattoos. Now, this is in reference to Ken and Gypsy get matching tattoos of a husky with a heart. Basically, Gypsy has like the girly version, and Ken has the more like, you know, say butch version, the dude version or whatever. And if you hold their arms up, if you follow this, you've seen the post and whatnot. So Ryan sends a picture to Gypsy of their current dog, Pixie, and he's like, what about her? You know, you already have this dog. And then Ryan, this really upsets Ryan throughout the episode. Like, he cries over this multiple times. You know, talking about the dog. Now, one thing I will give Gypsy is she did seem to be visibly upset about having to leave Pixie behind. I think it was probably the right choice, seeing how things played out, to leave Pixie with him, because it could have, I mean, I think that that would have been even more devastating to take the dog, especially if she's saying that it attached to him. I think it's better off with him, if that makes sense. He seems to, I mean, I've watched him on social media. He seems to really take care of her. So, you know, I feel like he probably is going to do a better job than Gypsy would have, because she just seemed to kind of get run off and start partying and playing and whatever with Ken and everything. So I think Pixie is in the right house is what I'm getting at. Ryan and Gypsy are, okay, so here's another one. Ryan and Gypsy, they're on the phone arguing. So we hear Ryan by watching Gypsy on the TV, right? And he says he's going to get her adultery. And she's like, you know, because he's basically like, you know, the laws, like, and whatnot. I mean, they're still married, right? And she's like, Ken and I didn't do anything. And he's like, oh, please, Gypsy. Then at one point, so the conversation goes a little bit further, and he's like groveling to get her back. And she says she doesn't want to give him false hope. And that's where I'm just like, yeah, this is not healthy. Like, he still thinks he's going to get her back and still wants her back, you know? And at this point, it's like, dude, move on from this nightmare, okay? Like, it's just, and no shade, no tea to Gypsy, whatever, it is what it is, but it's like, dude, run, okay? Just run. She is not in a situation to be in a relationship with anybody at all, and you're just gonna get toyed around. And the differences and seeing, and I mean, it would break my heart too if somebody dumps you and then they're living their best life with their person and doing all the things that you wanted to do, especially when we get into the kid talk here in a minute. So, I mean, with Ryan, I'm like, I know it hurts right now, but I think it was the best thing to happen, because it's like, she's got to sort a lot of stuff out, and she's just kind of, you know, dragging him along through this process, and it's just not fair to anybody, right? So let's keep going. Okay, so on that same phone call, she tells Ken, or I'm sorry, Ryan, that she wants a divorce and in 6 to 9 months she'll be with Ken. I thought the 6 to 9 months was interesting. We'll get to that in a minute. Then this is okay, here we go. She calls Ken right afterwards and tells him about the conversation. And I wrote, it just feels like she plays these dudes off of each other. So she calls Ken up immediately. Now I could understand, I'm playing devil's advocate. You want to call your other person and be like, you know, you just had this kind of traumatic phone call, whatever. Well, then she's like, I talked to Ryan. He wants to meet, you know, and Ken's like, do you want to meet him? I know. Are you sure? Yeah, do you miss him? And I'm like, didn't we just have this conversation with Ryan? Her and Ryan about Ken, and now we're here. Granted, I do think she wants to be with Ken, but I'm just like, I just think that she's doing it to like, almost like she likes to see them question things. It's like a way to get reassurance in the relationship she's in, you know what I'm saying? Just that whole little game, it's just very juvenile, but again, I think she's probably, what do you call it, like Arrested Development or whatever, of being like, well, my ex called me today. How does that make you feel? You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like, girl, if you want to keep a man or whatever, this is not the way to do it, okay? Like, this will get old to people because she always makes a third person in the situation. Mind you, she is married to Ryan, okay? She has unfinished business with him. So I mean, she's gonna have to deal with him, right? But the way she does it, she creates these love triangles. And it's like, honey, you're only gonna get super insecure dudes to participate in that. It's like she's victimizing them in a way, right? If you've known people who do this, who are the like, me and my ex are best friends, wink, wink, you know, kind of a thing, and no shade if that's your situation. But I've been in that before, so I'm probably biased, and it blew up in my face, right? This is many moons ago, and I've seen this happen where I'm just like, no. There needs to be appropriate boundaries in situations like this, and what I'm seeing so far is that's not happening because she's trying to almost like garner attention from each person in it. So let's keep going. She talks about Ken. Okay, so I wrote this. She talks about Ken and she does legit seem way happier. Yes, she is giddy. She smiles, she laughs. They do not portray her this way with Ryan at all. Only brief intervals of time. And the rest of it, she seems very stressed. She seems very anxious around him, very on edge, not happy. But with Ken, it's like a little, you know, it's like her high school crush kind of vibe, right? Of just like, I'm in love for the first time. So the difference is clear. And if I was Ryan, seeing that play out in the public would break my heart. Okay, then she gets her nose done. Again, put everything aside. You have to admit, she looks way damn better with a nose, right? I mean, period. I get it. Okay, now, this was some good tea right here. Go on. Go on. I don't have the sofa cups, but get your damn cup up. Okay, so Christy, the stepmother, Mia, her daughter, Gypsy's half-sister, Gypsy. They're like at a restaurant or something like that. They're talking about the whole scenario. So I wrote, Christy says she knew the marriage between her and Gypsy and Ryan wouldn't last from day one and that she never stopped talking to Ken. And then Mia, the daughter, calls her mother out, okay? And is basically like, her and her mom are going at it and arguing. And she's basically like, that's none of your business. You shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have done that. You know, and she's like, you know, Mia will be like, don't interrupt me. And the mom's like, you interrupted me. And I'm like, whoa. And then at one point, Mia's all like, you know, it's just about different morals and about different standards and stuff like that. And you can tell that Gypsy's kind of like, well, my morals or whatever it was she said exactly are, you know, this or that. And Mia basically says like her thoughts about Ken, like, you're a married woman, you're with Ryan. And so I have some issues with Ken stepping in on that. And with her mom, she's just like, look, this was not your place. You should not have told Gypsy this information. And the information she's referring to is the mom being like, Gypsy needed to know why he really left. And she's like, that was Ken's place to tell her, not yours. Ken left her at the altar. Ken broke her heart. He needs to step up and be the man and do that, but she's a married woman. You know, and of course the argument is, well, he's not, that's why he's reaching out to me. It's very convoluted. And I can see Mia's point. If you followed me watching this series, you'll know that I would say where I'm like, Mia seems to be the and the father, some of the most level-headed in the viewpoints of the way this is played out with the relationship with Ryan. Now, the father does have a change of heart. We'll get to that in a minute. But Mia's been very quiet about a lot of it, right? And just like, well, what about this, Gypsy? And what about that? Like, you can tell she's got a lot going on. And when this came out, I was like, oh alone. The way she talked to her mother told me, oh, she's over her mom's BS. This is standard protocol in this household. The mom probably does this stuff, because remember, who knows what kind of stuff the mom pulled with Mia and her boyfriend. And she does bring up something like that. So this is probably just how Christy is, where she's very involved and very, you know, let's play chess and checkers with everybody and whatnot. So that part was incredibly interesting to me. Let's keep going. Okay, so this is where I just wrote the thing about, you know, Mia questioning Ken's morals about her being married and whatnot. Okay, Ryan, let's switch back to him. He goes back home to visit his mom. And he's talking to his mom, talking about Gypsy texted me at 3 in the morning asking how the dog was. And Ryan said that she apologized for being selfish and it gave him hope. And he says that he thinks Gypsy thought it would always be the honeymoon phase of their relationship and that Kim was like a vacation. So first of all, this is what I'm talking about. Let's address the first point. Talking about text me late at night. How's the dog? I miss her. Blah, blah, blah. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You're smitten with Ken and you're texting the man you're married to who you left for Ken, talking about, I miss the dog. We needed a business interaction here. I don't want to give you false hope. Well, of course that's going to give him false hope. That's what I'm talking about. It's like she kind of enjoys that attention, right? And I think she needs to get that like in check, like however you do, like go for a tune-up or something, right? Okay, the second part, he thinks Gypsy would... He's talking about the relationship with Gypsy and how basically she got out of prison and like that first couple of weeks it was like blah, you know, and just wild. I mean, they're doing TV shows, they're going to New York, they're doing this, and she thought it was always be that. Well, then it's like it goes to regular work, right? Remember at one point Ryan, you know, he had a regular job, and so it's kind of boring. And she's this, I don't want to call her an influencer, but she is of celebrity. She lives a very different life. She makes her money off social media, off TV, off books, off of, you know, whatever appearances, whatever it is she's doing. This is a very different life. Then Ken swoops in and it's like a vacation tour and it's that whole party thing again. Well, I would venture to say, yes, I agree with Ryan on that. Yes, I agree. She probably thought everything was going to be like, wow, the whole time. But I do believe that with Ken, there is more of a, like they have more in common. Okay, have you ever, number one, have you ever been in a relationship or you've seen relationships where the biggest thing they have in common is they don't want to be alone, right? Or that they both want to get married versus a couple who authentically has lots of interest in common. So with Ken and what's her name? With Ryan and Gypsy, and we'll get to it in a second because there's a little bit more tea there that we'll get to when Christy talks. It's actually, I can see it right here coming down on my notes. So we'll get to it in 1 second. With those two, there is that vibe of Ryan as a means to an end. That once she got out, it was almost like, okay, I want to have fun now and you're not fun. Ken is fun. She is smitten with him. She is physically into him on multiple levels. She's way more at ease with him. And so, yeah, I'm sure she's just out living her best life with him. From what I see, he's not hounding her constantly. The tables are, the dynamic is different with Ken and Gypsy. Ken, and like she will say, she's like, you know what, yeah, towards the end, yeah, and I'll go ahead and say it before I forget. Yes, I'm afraid of Ken leaving me. He has my heart. Ryan didn't have her heart. It was opposite. He was afraid of Gypsy leaving him. You see what I'm saying? So the tables have turned, and I almost guarantee you it probably won't end how she wants, but we'll see. Okay, now speaking of the very next note here. So we've switched back over to like they're at the house talking or whatever, and it's Christy and the dad. Okay, so Christy says that Gypsy said she didn't want to move in with them because she thought she'd be a burden. She's like 32, and that's why she married Ryan. When Christy, and again, Christy said this, so I've not heard Gypsy say this, so these are Christy's words. 100% that checked out to me. I was like, yes, that is the vibe. That is the vibe. There's something that she didn't want to move in with them or whatever. And again, she's probably not wanting to live with parents, right? Ryan was a means to an end. That's the vibe that was there. And then once she got out, it was, whether this is conscious or subconscious, I don't know. I'm not in her head. But that makes sense. And maybe she understood this after the fact. You see what I'm saying? Like she could have done this not really being aware that's what she was doing and then self-reflection realized that, or it was a orchestrated move on her part, meaning Gypsy. Ken then comes to visit. So remember, at this point, Gypsy's living with them now, right? She's moved out of Ryan's. She's living at home. Ken comes to visit, and the dad is not sure how to handle things. Now, at this point, the dad has come around to where he sees things more like Christy does. Like, yeah, they should Ryan and Gypsy were a mistake, but I have reservations about Ken, okay? Because remember, Ken dumped Gypsy. He can say all he wants to say, like, oh, I want her to find herself. And all that. He broke her heart, right? That's his daughter, you know. So, and now this dude's coming into his home, you know, and so what's going to happen is Ken's going to kind of do the dad, I'm laying the law down kind of talk, right? Like the man to man, but in front of everybody, like the father of the house kind of vibe is getting ready to happen, okay? So Ken gets there, Gypsy jumps in his arms, you know, oh my God, he has the dog. Everyone's very welcoming, obviously Christy is, and then, you know, the dad shakes his hand or whatever. So then Gypsy's dad lays things out. I'm just reading my notes now. He tells Ken he doesn't want him to break her heart twice. And he tells Gypsy he wasn't honest about his feelings about Ryan because he didn't want to seem controlling. And so he's very transparent about that, right? And then he says something that's very interesting. He's like, if y'all are in love, you need to show it and you don't need to hide it. You know, because of the TV show or because of Ryan or because of this or because of that. He's like, you just need to, it's that, and this is very true with what he's saying. That moment of being in love in that first stages of that is a fleeting thing, right? I mean, love transcends and transforms throughout a relationship. And so he's basically saying, you need to enjoy this and live it and do it. And I can see that, right? Because then he does tell Ken, he's like, Gypsy has been really happy. And again, you see this with her. You can't deny the level of giddiness and happiness. So he calls all this out to Ryan. And I think that was necessary. And I think it was necessary for him to be stern about, look, dude, and maybe behind the scenes he had more of like a man-to-man, like, you know, bro, like, you can talk to Christy and all this, be at whatever, but you need to step to the plate and you need to be direct with my daughter, and you don't need to be breaking her heart when the going gets tough, because Ken has shown that when the going gets tough, he left her. He can say what it was about, but no, I'm sorry, whatever it was, he left, and now he's swooping back in when the times are more smooth. So now also, the dad is like, and you need to wait on kids. He goes, and another thing, she wants a baby. And Gypsy's like, what? Like, oh my God, like, oh, what? And he's like, I mean, I want a grandkid too, but y'all need to wait. You need to enjoy it. The same conversation as many of you have probably heard it or given it, right? And it's true, right? The whole thing needed to start with her waiting to getting out and moving. She needed to have moved in with them and not been with anybody, right? So there's that. Now, 4 weeks later, Gypsy is pregnant. Okay. And I'm just like, now let's pause there for a second. So she goes through the whole dramatic thing of showing the pregnancy thing and all this. If you've been watching the show, and I'm curious to know what y'all think about this part. Remember how when Gypsy and Mia went running around and Gypsy's talking about, yeah, Ryan and I are like unsafe in the bedroom and we went all the way, and Mia's like, you need to get a day after pill, you know, kind of a thing. And they go and get it, and Gypsy calls him on the phone, and he gets pissed because they're having a phone call. Imagine being Ryan and seeing 4 weeks later she is flaunting this pregnancy on social media with this dude. Like, as a guy, to be like, wow, my person rejected me in that way, I think would be completely devastating for him, right? To be like the ultimate, like, oh, now let's also please talk about this though in that way. She don't know at this point. She doesn't know if that's Ryan or his Ken's kid. You know what I'm saying? There's that whole messy dynamic to it as well. Because to take all that paternity test, take all that kind of stuff out, yada, 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 it's the fact that she publicly rejects Ryan in that way and then publicly embraces the idea with Ken and seemingly is pregnant with, you know, let's say Ken's baby, which that's a whole other bit of drama, you know, because there's a whole law about she's still married to Ryan with a last name and this and that. I mean, it's gonna get messy, y'all, okay? Ryan says he doesn't know whose kid it is and it's hard for him to even wrap his mind around it. And then Gypsy expresses her fear of Ken leaving. So that's like towards the end of the episode where her and Ken are at a park and they're talking and the producers are talking with her and she's like, I don't know if he's gonna leave me, but, you know, she starts crying and everything. And that's where she says the thing about he has my heart, you know, and I can't help it. The heart has chosen him and all this mess. So in that, one of these like closing things or whatever in her little interviews when she made that comment about the heart is a, you know, a strange muscle or whatever. The heart wants what it wants or whatever. You know, okay. So that's it. It wraps up, to be continued. You already know there's going to be another thing because the pregnancy will probably be that. Here's the thing, the way they staged this, and I say staged because, I mean, whether it's all legit and they just storyboarded it, there's going to 100% be another one because she can continue the story with the pregnancy with her and Ken. You see what I'm saying? Like she's probably already filming another show, right? I mean, it would be in their best interest financially. And I think that some of that is the driving factor. You have to remember this is her, how she makes money, right? So that part is what it is. Now, again, overall takeaways on this. I feel like Gypsy, from what I learned from this, yes, I see more of the reason why she would have wanted to leave Ryan. Just aside from the aspect of using him for whatever and then moving along, there was behaviors there that were very, you know. I also think that Gypsy definitely triangulates the relationships and creates these very toxic love triangles, right? Now, right, wrong, or indifferent, however you feel about Gypsy, I don't expect her to be the most sound, like I said, sound person. Nobody's perfect. I'm not, I get it, right? But it's just what I see in the show where I'm like, yeah, girl, now you keep dragging things into this, you know, of like trying to get this like weird attention from these dudes, and you need to make your mind up. If Ken is your man, Ken is your man. You only deal with Ryan on a business level. You don't call him at 3 in the morning. You don't text him. Very businesslike, and that's it. Period. And done. I think that with her, and I'm not sure if she's living with Ken at this point or what's going on with that, but with her staying at home, I think that's the best thing for her to do. I think she just needs to keep doing whatever. If she wants to keep Ken, I don't think in this day and age a kid will lock down anybody, because I did question, you know, it's the fact that she's pregnant. Does she kind of plan that a little bit subconsciously to lock him down? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, he's got a kid, whatever. He seems to be very happy. She seemed to be very happy. Great, good for them. There's going to be a lot to work through, I'd imagine, in this relationship, and there's just so many hands in the pot. You've got Ryan over here, Christy over here, the TV show, the history, the this, the that, the other, you know, dudes coming up talking about I've hooked up with Ken on Grindr. Just, there's a lot going on, okay? There's a lot. But again, in this day and age, when is there not a lot going on? You know what I mean? Like with anything or anybody. So, predictions, like I said, 100% we're going to be seeing more TV shows coming out of it. She is going to basically be reality TV tabloid fodder. That is her career path. Unless she gets with some kind of really good publicist, or, and I don't even know what you call these people that do this type of stuff, that form a career, and really hone her in and put her on a different trajectory. It's like we're watching her be a messy teenager for the first time, but she's 30 something. And so, and it's expected because she was under lock and key with her mom, and then prison, and then out with Ryan, and now it's like, blah. So it's like, how long would that go on? I mean, I would think hopefully not too much longer. She's getting ready to bring a child into this earth, you know what I'm saying? So that's you gotta like get the messiness done with real quick. So there's that. Will I keep following this? I mean, yeah, they come out with another TV show. It just depends on what's going on. Of course, I'd probably watch a little bit of it. My main reasoning in watching this show was to get context of her and Ryan, and I feel like I walked away from that with this. So like, I'm not sitting here like living on Gypsy's lives or Ryan's lives. Like, I tune into them some. Every few days I would go and like Google like Gypsy Blanchard news and see if there's something big, like, oh, she's pregnant or whatever, right? But outside that, it's, you know, it's overexposure big time, okay? Big time. Now, here's the other things you got going. The crime scene photos were leaked of her mother. They're horrific and shocking to people. It's not like I've ever seen them, and I'm not gonna like cover those here because I don't want to put that up here, regardless of how you feel about Dee Dee and whatnot. I don't do the crime scene things like that. Of course it's horrible, right? There's the whole question of the brutality of it, the personalization of it, if you will, and the wounds and when they were inflicted, because there's a lot of people who do think that Gypsy went back in that house and had her moment in there with Dee Dee, right? And it honestly would make sense, but I don't know, right? I wasn't there. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole with it. It's just gonna be a Gypsy Rose headline sells. I mean, you see it, it's everywhere. Every day there's some update with her, you know, and it's just like, oh my God, you know. So the mega updates, I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm curious. You got me, right? But the day to day and the, oh, we think she did, oh, she's going to do, it gets a little bit old, right? So anyways, that's it. Let me know what you thought. Specifically, I'm so curious to hear from the sofa about this. what was your takeaway about Ryan? Okay, just that relationship in general, right? But also, what is your takeaway about my thought process? And did you see this too, or is it just me about she keeps pivoting these men against each other in this triangle. She's just changed the triangle around now with the points with Ken and Ryan and her versus when she was with Ryan. I'm very curious to know what y'all think about that. So drop it in the comments and drop some sofas or rocking chairs off in the comment section. So I'll have a place to sit. Rosco and Spirit will have a place to sit. We'll talk about Gypsy. We'll talk about Ryan. We'll talk about Sarah. We'll talk about all this craziness down in the comment section. And until we do, I'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. Also, if you're looking for merch, be sure to check out my Teespring store. I'll put that up here. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.